Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to Pyramid's webinar on low-cost smartphones. My name is Jennifer Baker from Pyramid Research, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This presentation will last about 45 minutes with some time for questions and answers at the end. As you can see on the event console, you will be able to view more information about Pyramid and our speakers. You'll also be able to email your colleagues an invite to the webinar as you watch it, as well as post interesting data points from the presentation to Twitter if you're so inclined. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. To ask a question, just click on the Q&A button and type your question into the Q&A area and then click the Submit button. We will try to answer all questions at the end of the presentation. If we do run out of time and your question is not answered during the call, our speakers will be able to reply back to you individually after the call. At the end, we will ask for your feedback, and a survey form will be pushed to you. You may also access it at the bottom of your screen. To thank you, we will email the slide deck from this presentation after we receive your feedback form. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event, and at this time, we recommend that you disable your pop-up blockers. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties whatsoever, just please visit our help guide by clicking on the help icon below. And today's speaker will be Stella Bokun, a senior analyst with Pyramid Strategy and Innovation Analysis team. She manages the production of qualitative and quantitative content and leads projects related to the global mobile device market. This presentation today is based on a recent report that Stella has co-authored, which can be seen on your console here. In complementing Stella's presentation will be Maritza Morales, a principal analyst of Pyramid's mobility and broadband practice covering the Americas. She examines competitive strategies and innovative business models of the leading mobile operators and also analyzes the industry's growth drivers, 4G network deployments, and mobile market trends in the region. Thank you for your attention, and now I will hand it off to Stella.
Thanks, Jen. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. As Jen said, I'm Stella Bokun. I'm a senior analyst in Pyramid Strategy and Innovation Analysis team, and I'll be your host today. My thematic focus or thematic area of expertise in Pyramid are mobile devices and mobile payments. As Jen mentioned, recently I co-authored a report, Smartphone Strategies, How Devices Can Revitalize the Role of Operators in the Mobile Ecosystem. And the key objective of today's webinar is to share some of the findings of this report, particularly those focusing on operator strategies around own-branded smartphones. The report covers a really wide array of different strategies, analyzes device portfolios, operators' role in smartphone distribution, subsidies, reverse subsidies, buyback and trade-ins, handset financing, etc. But today, as I said, we are going to focus mostly on operators' own brand smartphones. On the left side of this slide, you can see the agenda for today's webinar. We are first going to provide some market and business context to the operator-owned brand smartphone strategy. Then we will briefly discuss mobile operators' role in smartphone retail. And then we will go into some of the key objectives that mobile operators want to achieve with their own brand smartphone strategies. And of course discuss some of the key prerequisites to a successful operator strategy in own brand smartphones domain. Then I will with pleasure announce my colleague Maritza Morales, who is going to discuss the very same topics but only in the Latin American context, and then we will go into some key takeaways and of course the most important part of the webinar, which is your questions and answers. Now let's go on to the next slide, as I said, we will provide some business and market context. And on the left side of this slide, you can see our projection for unit sell-through of smartphones and feature phones for 2013, 15, and 18. 2013 is the first year in which smartphone sales will beat those of feature phones. And the gap between the sales of smartphones and feature phones will significantly widen in the next 5 years. As you can see, in 2018, smartphones will account for 73% of total sell-through globally. Now, one might wonder where this smartphone sales will originate, and the right side of this slide provides some projections for the split between the smartphone sales between emerging markets and developed markets. And as you can see, we project that 70% of total smartphone sales will originate in emerging markets in 2018. Why is this relevant? Mostly because this explosion of smartphone sales is going to mostly come from mid-tier and low-end mobile customers. And it is exactly operator-owned brand smartphones that can, with their appropriate price points, address this segment really well. And some of the first results are really very encouraging. So, for instance, Turkcell sold 1 million own brand smartphones today. Orange increased their market share of own brand handsets globally 40% year on year in mid-2013. In Thailand, DTAC's own brand smartphones account for around 20% of total smartphone sales, etc. So the first results, or some of the ones that we have currently available, are quite encouraging. Now, let's go on to the next slide, where we will briefly describe the role of mobile operators in smartphone retail. On the left side of this slide, you can see the position of mobile operator in mobile services value chain after the iPhone revolution. So this is in the entire mobile services value chain. In the pre-iPhone world, mobile operators sat at the very center of mobile industry value chain, with all other players depending to some extent in both mobile services and mobile devices front on mobile operators. They were the main link and most often the gatekeepers to a growing population of mobile subscribers, and most data and content services were provided directly through mobile operators. What changed after in the post-iPhone era? First of all, there is a rise of power of operating system platforms. This also brought about certain marginalization of mobile operators in data and content services. While this is true in the entire mobile services value chain, when it comes to device retail, mobile operators maintained their central role, particularly in developed markets. And this role is being reinforced in emerging markets too. Now, on the right side, you can see some of the benefits that we listed, benefits of involvement in device distribution for a mobile operator. Of course, this is closer customer relationship, which is directly tied to increased customer loyalty, more control over the process of selling handsets, and of course features of handsets, specifications of handsets, quality of handsets, greater economies of scale, etc. Within this context, why should operators have their own brand smartphones? There are three key objectives as we see it. One, to increase smartphone penetration on their network. Two, to assert their market influence. And three, to inject more competitiveness in the entire ecosystem, to grow the ecosystem by supporting some newcomers. Now, let's go on to the next slide. where we will discuss the first objective as we define it. So how operators can use own brand devices to increase smartphone penetration. On the left side, you see our projection for smartphone share of total handset sales globally and by region for 2013. You can see that in regions such as Africa and Middle East, Latin America, Central Eastern Europe, Asia Pacific, there is still a lot of room for growth when it comes to smartphone sales. And some of the main barriers to smartphone adoption, particularly in those regions, have been listed on the right side of this slide. Most of it boils down to device affordability and the cost of data services, but some barriers are also related to the customers simply underestimating the value of smartphone ownership because the current devices do not provide them with features or services that are tailored to them and that would be in demand. So in this context, how operators' own brand smartphones address these barriers. First of all, operators tend to launch own brand smartphones which are more affordable than the existing smartphones in the market. Secondly, with features, services, and apps that are relevant to their customers. So there is a lot of customization which is meant to customize the device so that it would provide more value for money for their customers. And thirdly, very often operators bundle devices and data plans in an affordable manner within their operator-owned brand smartphone strategy. So let's go on to the next slide. Here is where we have a particular example of MTS and their own brand smartphone strategy. MTS is the largest Russian mobile operator, and in general, to give you some context, Russia is a very fertile land for operator-owned branded smartphones. In fact, the big three, MTS, Wimpelcom, and Megaphone, all of them have their own brand smartphones, and so far they have been pretty successful. Just to give you the most recent piece of data, Megaphone launched Login SP-A1 in 2Q 2013, and it's priced at $66 when purchased with a 3-month data subscription package, which is $21, so all of it is very affordable, and it became the best seller in the Megaphone retail chain very quickly. Now back on to MTS. Since 2009, MTS has been investing successfully in device distribution, and they did so by increasing their retail presence, by launching a number of own-branded devices within portfolio, and by very successfully integrating devices and their own data services. So just to speak about the affordability of some of the handsets that they launched, which in turn increased smartphone penetration on their network. For instance, in November 2010, they launched MTS 916, which was at the time $207 approximately, and that was 15% lower than the most affordable comparable device in the Russian market at the time. Then, in September 2012, they launched another MTS own brand smartphone, MTS 960, which was the first smartphone in Russia which was priced under the $100 barrier at the time. So as you can see, these are very affordable handset smartphones, and the key objective that MTS had in mind was to increase smartphone penetration within their network. As you can see on the right side, there are some strategic objectives strategic achievements that they reported. First of all, on their network, they grew smartphone penetration from 8.1% in January 2010 to 28% in the second quarter of 2013. They also managed to stimulate the demand for mobile data services. So as you can see, mobile internet penetration grew significantly, and as they were investing in their retail presence, they became the second biggest retailer in Russia, second only to assert in 2013. So as you can see, their strategy was mostly based on making sure that within the increased retail presence of over 4,000 retail stores, that they have a direct connection to the customer and that they overcome the educational barrier, but also they launched very affordable devices which allowed them to target rural population and low-end customer and switch them from feature phone to smartphone users. Now, let's go on to the next slide and briefly describe the case of China Unicom. Now, this is probably, it would be better to call this co-branded devices, because most of the devices that I will describe here have both the logo of China Unicom and the handset manufacturer on them. However, the reason why I decided to present them here is because the customization level is unbelievable. Really, all of the devices that are on China Unicom's network come with a number of operator-driven, operator-owned applications, content, and really this falls under own brand devices when it comes to the level of customization that is required from the manufacturer. Why we decided to present this particular case. This is an interesting strategy where China Unicom used devices to increase 3G penetration on their network. In particular, in mid-2011, they launched first 1,000 yuan smartphone. This was basically hitting a sweet spot. This is when the 3G penetration triggered significantly, particularly on their network. It was at the time launched with ZTE. However, China Unicom extended their network of partners, vendor partners, on a number of other companies, Huawei, Lenovo, Coolpad, etc., also foreign vendors such as Motorola and Samsung. And the point is that by launching these very affordable own brand smartphones, they managed to increase demand for data services and for 3G on their network. They also invested a lot in increasing their retail presence, and they partnered up with a number of retailers, national retailers. So I think they made, by the end of 2011, they had partnership deals with 13 national players and more than 80 regional players, and they started at the time revamping their own retail stores, which was above 3,500 at the time. So you can see some of the strategic achievements. I would want to point out the last one, that China Unicom gained market share from China Mobile in service revenue terms. So in 2012, its revenue amounted to 22.5% of its competitors, which is an increase from 15.4% in 2009. Now, we covered some of the examples related to how operators can use own brand smartphone strategy to increase smartphone penetration and 3G penetration on their network. So this was mostly about launching a more affordable device more affordable smartphone to target the under-penetrated segments of the population. Now let's go on to the second objective, which operators can achieve with their own brand smartphone portfolio, and this is to assert market influence. So they can, via smartphone customization, typical for own brand smartphones, they can provide more value to their customers. They do that on the application levels, as you can see on the left side, via preloading something we call utilitarian applications, so this is related to device and service management, cloud services, app stores, etc. And then data service and entertainment applications such as mobile gaming, video, TV apps, mobile payment and banking apps. So in general, this is about own branded smartphones providing the ability to offer specific applications preloaded on the device, and by doing so, tightening the relationship with the customer and promoting mobile operators' own apps uptake and service uptake. So let's go into some examples. On the next slide, we discussed briefly how Orange is using own brand devices to assert its market influence. Orange, at the end of the second quarter 2013, had at around 174 million subscribers. Their global footprint is very diverse. So they operate in some countries that are very mature mobile markets, developed markets like UK, like France, like Spain, and at the same time they have operations across Africa in some very emerging mobile markets too. They, of course, concentrated device procurement in a global unit. However, this unit has to, in a centralized nature, accommodate both the needs of a customer in developed and emerging markets. So this is the core of their strategy, being able to both address emerging market customer, which needs entry-level prices, and offer more value to a developed market customer. So offering higher specifications than other vendors at a given price range, and targeting both entry-level and advanced customer segments. They really, one of the key pillars of their strategy is customization, which they impose via their own brand device strategy, and as I said, it's twofold. So with some of the preloaded applications like Orange TV or Daily Motion, they address the needs of developed market customer, and applications such as mobile money, the needs of their emerging market customer. We have some examples of Orange's own brand device portfolio here. So as you can see, there are entry-level devices like Orange Boston, Orange Nevo, but also advanced devices. In particular, please pay attention to Orange Umo. It's a 4G Orange own brand device. Some strategic achievements have also been listed on the right side of the slide. So, for instance, 2011 has been a great year for Orange when it comes to their own brand device strategy, where own brand devices accounted for 15% of the total device portfolio, up from 7% in 2010. Recently, I found out that the market share of Orange smartphones increased by 40% year-on-year in October 2013. There were some best sellers. So, for instance, in Spain, Orange sold 50% more Daytona smartphones than all other phones combined during the summer of 2013, and Orange Nevo was the best-selling smartphone in Romania. I didn't list it here, but I think also the company stated that in the UK alone, about 25% of devices sold by Orange in 2012 were own brand. So that's a pretty impressive statistic, I would say. Going on to the next slide, this is basically the brief description of Vodafone's device strategy, and it's very similar to Orange on the own brand device front. Again, Vodafone is also both trying to address the smartphone penetration on their network by enabling mass market penetration of mobile internet services, so as one of the three pillars of their device strategy. However, they are also making sure that they are providing more value to their customers via, for instance, Vodafone Red, which extends value through apps and services. We presented again some of the Vodafone's own brand portfolio here. As I said, they are enabling mass market penetration of smartphones via some very affordable devices like Smart Mini, recently launched, and the retail price is at around £50. Again, recently launched. Similarly to Orange, Vodafone also has their own brand 4G phone, and on the right side you can see some of the strategic achievements in own brand domain. Vodafone Smart, which was launched in 2011, sold over 1 million devices in about 1 year. Vodafone Red customers reached 5.2 million within a year, and as I said, they recently launched a 4G smartphone too. Now, going on to the very third objective that operators can achieve with their own brand smartphone strategy is related to growing the ecosystem, injecting more competitiveness into the ecosystem by supporting certain newcomers. So if they support new OS vendors or new component manufacturers, they position themselves well to be able to bring out compelling devices with a cost advantage. So some of the examples here, you can see the support of Orange, Etisalat, and Safaricom to Intel in the mobile space. So we showed some of the devices here: Orange San Diego, Etisalat E20, Safaricom YOLO. Another example would be probably the most popular one is Orange Santa Clara, which is the first device ever developed using Intel processors. And Orange indeed used its partnership with Intel to reinforce its commercial and value chain position. There is also a reference on this slide to support the arrival of new operating systems such as Firefox OS and Titan. While there are still no official announcements related to the launches of operator own brand Firefox OS based smartphones, we do expect that in the future this is going to be a viable strategy for both operators and Mozilla. Operators provide a large retail presence, marketing muscle, and they are currently Mozilla's main channel, whereas Firefox would want to use this structure to scale up, and they need to do so relatively quickly. So it would make sense that the current partnerships that exist also start involving some Firefox OS white label devices or operator-owned devices. But this is yet to be seen. Finally, going on to the next slide, we discuss a path to a successful operator-owned brand smartphone strategy. So in the table on the left side, we point out some of the pillars of a successful or prerequisite of a successful operator-owned brand smartphone strategy. So scale is key here. Strong own brand device strategy and portfolio depends heavily on scale. However, some smaller operators can partner up to gain benefits of scale. And really, it's not only small operators that partner up. We have a number of examples: Orange and Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica and Megaphone, MTS and Vodafone. So it's very often that operators partner up in order to increase their bargaining power vis-a-vis handset manufacturers. Third point here, the degree to which mobile operators get involved in creating own brand devices varies. So as we saw, some of them are going for co-branding. Others are going for full own brand devices. There is even an extreme version of this which we've recently seen in the case of Turkcell. Turkcell announced in 4Q 2013 their first self-designed smartphone, T40. So the idea here is, and this has been heavily supported by the government in Turkey, the idea is that this will partially relieve Turkey's smartphone import dependency. So it's even though it's the first locally designed smartphone, this is not the first Turkcell own branded phone. As we said, they already had 5 phones on the market and they sold 1 million units. But the peculiarity of this one is that it really takes this own brand strategy to an extreme where the entire design and manufacturing is done locally. And then to wrap up with the pillars of successful operator own brand smartphone strategy, as you can see, mobile operators should not make business out of selling own brand smartphones, or that shouldn't be their primary business. The key here is that these devices will allow them to sell or to enable higher sales of mobile data services. Also, as we mentioned previously, an own brand smartphone strategy should not be only about increasing smartphone penetration. Sometimes it's really a powerful tool for changing perceptions or asserting market influence, coming closer to a customer, increasing loyalty, etc. And the final point is that a successful strategy typically involves a number of partnerships with OEMs, but also ODMs. And these partnerships tend to be very mutually beneficial, win-win situation. Now it's my pleasure to pass the presentation on to Maritza Morales, my colleague who is going to discuss all of these trends in the Latin American context. Maritza?
Thank you, Stella. It is a pleasure to be here. As Stella said, my name is Maritza Morales, and I am Pyramid's lead analyst for mobile and broadband technologies, services, and business models in the Americas region. I will spend a few minutes today providing a high-level view of the topic from the Latin America perspective. When we speak about the explosive growth of smartphones around the world, Latin America is no exception. As it was the case globally, this year Latin America has seen smartphones take the lead in mobile handset sell-through at the expense of feature phones. Going forward, Pyramid projects that smartphone sales in the region will triple by 2018 compared to 2012 levels. This year alone, we will see a 20 million sales increase driven mainly by 3 factors: the proliferation of lower-cost device options, the increase in aggressive mobile internet offers, and the higher popularity and demand for mobile data applications among all user segments. The launch of Firefox operating system will certainly play a key role in this expansion. As one will expect, most of the growth that will take place in emerging economies, such as Latin America, will happen in the low-cost segment. We already see in 2013 that over 77% of these smartphones will be priced under $300 US, making the low-cost segment a focal point of the smartphone opportunity. Now, When we focus on the topic of operator-branded smartphones, we find that this particular strategy is not as prevalent among Latin American mobile operators. There are a number of reasons for this, ranging from supply chain complexities to the need for volume and scale to some very compelling demand factors. Our research shows that one key inhibitor of operator-branded devices is the strong brand affiliation of Latin Americans, especially in the choice of brands that affect their own lifestyles and that of their families. Consumers, especially the tech-savvy early adopters, tend to align themselves with the brands associated with high-tech leadership and prestige. And leading OEMs, handset makers such as Apple, have done a tremendous job of positioning their brands as leading-edge, cool, and lifestyle-enhancing, and their aspirational appeal makes it tough to compete against, especially in the higher value, higher price tiers of the device ecosystem. Other potential inhibitors for operator-branded device included the widespread availability of ultra-affordable devices in the gray markets, as well as the use of multiple SIM cards by a good portion of the addressable market in the region. A good proportion of prepaid customers, which represent over 80% of the overall Latin America customer base, tend to switch SIM cards to take advantage of the best prices depending on the operator and at the time of day. On the other hand, there are also a number of arguments in favor of operator-branded smartphones, including the need for operators to strengthen the relationship with subscribers, generate brand loyalty, and reduce churn in the face of competition. Operators could also be prone to offering on-brand smartphones in the low tier to promote digital inclusion, as a great deal of the growth in the next few years will stem from entry-level smartphone users. An example of this is MobileNet, Venezuela's third operator, which has partnered with the government to offer co-branded low-cost smart devices since 2009. But undeniably, the most compelling driver for an operator to offer devices under its own brand devices is to boost smartphone adoption among its subscribership and enable them to monetize the mobile data opportunity. This is what Telefonica has done in the Latin America region. Telefonica began offering Movistar-branded smartphones at selected properties across the region as a result of a strategic partnership with Chinese maker ZTE signed in 2010, and they have continued to do so to their advantage. And just this summer, América Móvil followed suit by launching its first smartphone under the brand Telcel. It is the T20. It's co-branded with manufacturer ZTE, and it's a telephone that offers an economical option featuring Android's 2.3.6 operating system, a 3.5-inch screen, free Open TV, Wi-Fi, and many other smart features. Next, I will discuss Telefónica's strategy in more detail. What is the essence of the Telefónica strategy? Telefónica is using its own brand devices to lower the cost barrier for smartphone users and make mobile data more accessible. A review of the pricing of their branded devices tells that Telefónica is positioning its Movistar brand portfolio in the low-tier segment, mostly to promote adoption and give customers access to higher-value services. And how has Telefónica Latin America gone about this? First, they have launched a small line of low-tier Movistar-branded smartphones and tablets in selected markets in the region, not across the board. One example is the Movistar Express Android smartphone featuring 3G connectivity, capacitive touchscreen, QWERTY keyboard, 3.2 megapixel camera, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, email, video streaming, video conference, GPS, and it retails for about $120 US. In Argentina, or about $230 in Venezuela on prepaid pricing. Here on the slide, we show the Express 47th Street version of this phone, which comes with a cool-looking skin free of charge. Another way that Telefonica has gone about this is that Telefonica is pairing the Movistar devices with very attractive mobile internet plans to quickly generate value from the customer adopting these devices. Some of these devices, such as the Movistar One phone and tablet, come with pre-installed services and content from Movistar to enrich the user's experience. These include the Diversión Movistar, which has images, games, and videos, Sonora, which is a music service, Terabox, which is a storage service, and eBooks, the store for electronic books. They also provide access to downloads of multiple types of applications and games from the Movistar application store. Thirdly, for Telefonica, making mobile broadband accessible allows them to increase its pool of potential postpaid customers and positions them to progressively increase the revenue profile of the overall subscribership. This is where this brand strategy generates sustainable value for Telefonica. The Movistar branded devices are being marketed on a below-the-line basis. In order not to jeopardize its position in brand-conscious high-value segments, Telefonica has chosen not to advertise the Movistar brand models proactively, with the exception of the tablets, which have been featured in promotions from time to time. Instead, they are offered through both retail and online channels and showcased at some retail point of sale. Meanwhile, Telefonica keeps a very high profile of its latest portfolio of high-feature phones from well-known manufacturer brands, targeted at the high-value customers. In contrast, the Movistar branded phones are leveraged to close sales, but not prominently showcased in the media. Overall, the strategy of providing affordable smartphones via its Movistar brand, together with other device strategies, for example, the fact that they're supporting the new open Firefox operating system, is helping Telefonica to enhance its portfolio, rely less on subsidies, boost smartphone growth, and more importantly, increase the value and revenue potential of subscribership. To end, I wanted to just say a few words about the partnership in Venezuela between the mobile network operator MobileNet and Vitelca, a joint venture between the state and Chinese manufacturer ZTE. This initiative has the sole objective of promoting digital inclusion by making smart devices ultra affordable for the population. The market response has been remarkable, and the partnership has had so much commercial success that it continues as strong after 4 years and recently launched the first Android device, dubbed the Vergatario V8200. MobileNet has leveraged this opportunity to enrich its low-tier portfolio, to establish a direct relationship with entry-level smartphone users, and to generate goodwill for its brand, to be known as a company that enables digital access for the people. This has allowed the carrier to increase its participation in the market. Even though this three-way Venezuelan coalition is quite unique, we think that it signals another avenue for governments and ecosystem participants to promote digital inclusion by making smartphones widely accessible from a price perspective. And now back to Stella.
Thank you very much, Maritza. This is the point in the presentation where we are arriving to key takeaways. And I will use the opportunity just to sum up some of the key messages of this webinar. First of all, there is a favorable business and market context for operators to invest into own brand smartphone strategy. As we said, 2013 will be the first year when smartphone sales will exceed those of feature phones. Smartphone sales are going to once more explode and account for 73% of total handset sell-through in 2018. In this context, developed market operators and some emerging market operators will hold a central role in device retail. The key objectives that operators should look into achieving via their operator-owned brand smartphone strategy is to drive smartphone penetration growth on their network, to assert market influence by providing more value for money and improving their communication with their customers, and increasing competitiveness in the entire value chain by forming partnerships with newcomers to the market. In terms of some of the key prerequisites of the success of operated own brand smartphone strategies, one is related to scale, which matters a lot. We said that smaller operators could partially compensate for the lack of scale by partnering up. Partnerships with both OEMs and ODMs, clear objectives in terms of what they want to achieve, and by they I mean operators, what they want to achieve with their strategy, and how deep their involvement should be, how much they want to customize the handsets, etc. And then readiness to support slim margins, meaning don't make selling devices your main business, and do expect some pressure on margins. And as you just heard from Maritza, in Latin America, smartphones will account for 62% of total handset sell-through in 2018. And while own-branded smartphones are currently sold by a small minority of operators in Latin America, there is a growing trend, and it's being led by Telefonica, and we mentioned MobileNet too. Now, with this slide, we are going to conclude our presentation, the presentation part of this webinar. And now we can go on to the questions and answers. I will first address one question which is very easy. One of the attendees said that slide number 2, which I believe is probably important to quite a few people, did not display well, and this is the one related to forecasts of Pyramid Research. So I will now just, as I am talking, push it to the audience so that you can have access to it as I'm answering to other questions. Marissa, here is a question for you, and in case if we can't hear you well, I'll try to repeat it. Why is Telefonica offering Movistar branded devices when most operators in the region have not been exploiting this tool?
Thanks, Stella. To best answer this question, we need to look at two of Telefonica's strategic objectives. The first one, to continue growing its postpaid subscription base, and second, to increase its share in segments and products of higher value. Telefonica has also stated they will launch smart devices at lower prices or with open codes. Thus, we see that the Movistar branded device portfolio is one element of a multifaceted strategy to meet these objectives. It is aimed at accelerating the smartphone penetration among its subscribers, which in turn drives growth in mobile data usage and raises the subscribers' overall revenue potential for Telefonica. Having said that, it remains to be seen how this strategy will evolve now that Telefonica has launched the Firefox operating system devices, which are being positioned to drive customers to new levels of data usage with very attractive hardware entry points.
Thank you, Maritza. Here is an interesting one. According to several studies, selling devices reduces operator margins, especially if terminals are subsidized. Any comments on this? Yeah, this is a well-known fact, particularly in developed markets. Operators' margins are really under a lot of pressure as they are providing subsidies to particularly those that are related to high-end handsets. I'm going to give you an example that actually speaks in favor of operator launching own brand devices and is related to margins. So if you remember, China Unicom was the first operator in China that launched the iPhone in China. It was in October 2009. And at that point, they were targeting high-end users. They started offering smartphone subsidies, and this exclusivity lasted for at around 2.5 years. However, since they started subsidizing smartphones and mostly they were focusing on high-end segment, that put a lot of pressure onto their margins. And it's exactly, this was one of the reasons why they decided to shift their focus onto lower-end segments, and they tightened up their existing partnership with Chinese vendors, and this is how they launched their first own brand or co-branded 1,000 yuan smartphone in 2011. So, and at that point, the success of low-end smartphones has been vital to reducing the weight of subsidies. And it really had a positive effect on the relative weight of subsidy costs on 3G revenue and overall service revenue. So you can see that after the introduction of the first 1,000 yuan smartphone in June 2011, the cost of subsidies actually dropped to less than 20% of 3G service revenue, and it remained there ever since. So basically, by switching the strategy from subsidizing high-end phones by aspirational brands like Apple, they went into own brand smartphone strategies, and they managed to improve their margins because they started offering more affordable smartphones, and at the same time they increased 3G penetration. So let's go on to the next question. Maritza, this one is for you. In which specific countries has Telefonica launched Movistar branded smartphones, and where have they made the highest impact?
Well, this is a good question. Currently, Movistar branded smartphones are being sold in Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and in a few markets in Central America, such as Costa Rica. These are markets where they enjoyed strong brand equity and where price elasticity is high. Venezuela has seen the highest impact in terms of ARPU improvement and smartphone penetration growth. This is the market where they have the largest Movistar branded product lineup. Argentina also shows good traction for the Movistar branded Express line, which has been in the market since May of 2011. In 2013, both Argentina and Venezuela had average selling prices for smartphones that are below the regional average at 161 and 151 US dollars respectively. And we think that that has a lot to do with the success of the Movistar low-cost phones in this market.
Thank you, Maritza. And one final question, because we are now, it's 3 o'clock, so it's 1 hour has passed. What are the lowest price points you expect for own brand 4G smartphones? Frankly, I think it's going to be, the lowest price points are going to be at around $200, though I've heard estimates from some industry players that it's going to be at around $150. In fact, I think the president and CEO of China Mobile recently said that he's expecting the emergence of TDD, LTE devices in second half of 2014 that are going to be priced at around $150, but this is yet to be seen. And with this, we will conclude the questions and answers part of the webinar. There are a couple of questions left unanswered, and we are going to answer them via email until the end of this week. I would like to thank you very much for your attendance today. And I think Jen mentioned at the very beginning that the presentation is going to be mailed to all attendees who fill out the survey after the webinar. She can give you more details right now. Thank you again, and Jen, over to you.
Thank you, Stella, and thank you, Maritza. Everyone, we have reached the end of our session today, and as Stella mentioned, any questions that have not been answered will be collected, and either Maritza or Stella will be reaching out to you via email individually. And if you do want the presentation files from today's call, please do complete the feedback survey so we can understand how we can serve you better. In the meantime, we do hope that you read more about the report on this topic, which offers 100-plus pages of in-depth analysis on operator smartphone strategies around the world. And for more information about what Pyramid does and our products and services, please visit us at pyramidresearch.com. And thank you again for attending.